Today, we're discussing a tragic incident that happened in California that reminds us of the importance of taking precautions when hiking in extreme conditions. A young family of three and their dog embarked on a hike in the intense heat of the California desert, hoping to enjoy a day of nature and exercise. However, things took a fatal turn as they underestimated the danger of the high temperatures and strenuous trails. In this video, we'll examine the details of this tragic incident and discuss the lessons that we can all learn to prevent similar accidents in the future. So if you're an avid hiker or someone who loves the great outdoors, keep watching to learn from this heartbreaking story. The cause of death for a California family who was discovered dead on a hiking route in August was disclosed by the Mariposa County Sheriff's Office last week. Jonathan Jarrich, Ellen Chung, their baby daughter Aurelia, and the family dog Oski went missing while trekking in mid-August, leaving investigators perplexed for 2 months. The bodies of this Californian family were discovered on a hiking route in that state in August. This is the last update we have on the Jarrich Chung case before we go into any further information from the Mariposa County Sheriff's Office. I believe that the terrible nature of this case and the fact that it was so unusual from the start is what attracted so much media attention. And it was all just so strange. Why on earth does a whole family, including a husband, wife, infant kid, and family dog, all perish on a hiking trail? These are all there, and neither trauma nor a clear indication of what went wrong is readily apparent. As a result, they scared a lot of people. Although there were no signs of trauma when the family was found, investigators considered toxic algae from the Merced River after several environmental factors, including toxic gases from the mine. There were some mines in the area, but the closest one was found to be about 2 miles away, and it was not decided that it was the problem. They were eventually ruled out. Did they consume water from the river? They had insufficient water. They could have sipped river water. The harmful algae may have gotten on the dog. People have been known to become ill from the river. While it has been implicated in the deaths of animals, there are no instances where it has resulted in the death of people. Yet they disregarded it, and they even gave a lightning strike some thought. There was no trace of damage or injury to their bodies, so it may have been severe enough to produce a cardiac arrest, but not enough to, leave burns and the like. As a result, they had to do a very thorough review of the toxicology after ruling out all of those possibilities. Also, the preliminary autopsy findings lacked certainty. After a 2-month investigation that encompassed more than 30 local, state, and federal authorities, it was found that the family's cause of death was heat and likely dehydration as a result of environmental exposure. The 8-year-old Aussie Akita mix's cause of death could not be confirmed, but based on the dog's remains and other materials discovered at the site, authorities assume the Aussie Akita mix died from heat-related problems. Hypothermia, which is of course low body temperature and can happen in extremely cold weather, is probably something that everyone is more familiar with than hyperthermia, which is high body temperature and is a heat-related illness that happens when your body simply cannot cool itself down and becomes overheated. Our body can only function within a very small temperature range, and 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit is sort of the classic illustration of that typical temperature. However, some folks have somewhat different temperature swings. Your core temperature decreases if you get chilly. Your body temperature increases because you are heated. Therefore, hyperthermia is a condition in which your body overheats, which affects a lot of your organs and may be fatal. In the final press release, the Sheriff's Office offered a complete timetable. Nevertheless, I believe this is a shortened version of that timeline, which I will share with you here. So I believe it is important to comprehend what occurred and what went wrong. Thus, using a program on his phone on Saturday, August 14th, Jonathan mapped a roof with our intended heights to walk. It seemed that he did a lot of hiking and often planned it using a variety of applications on his phone. It was not uncommon in any way. Investigators did see, according to the Sheriff's Office, that he entered waypoints for the location they intended to trek to. However, this prevented an exact distance count and elevation gain and loss calculation from being made. As we get further into the time frame, it becomes important to consider the possibility that they were unaware of how long they had been traveling and how much elevation they would be gaining and dropping throughout the journey. A passerby who was out for a stroll on Sunday, August 15th, around 7:45 a.m., saw the family's vehicle heading in the direction of the Heights Cove trailhead. The family's vehicle was seen by witnesses to be parked near the Heights Cove trailhead. The family must have already begun down the route as it was not visible at the trailhead at the time. The height of the trailhead is merely going to be warm, but not dangerously hot or, insane. The temperature at 8 o'clock was between 74 and 76 degrees. The family departed the Heights Creek trailhead and traveled 2.2 miles to the U.S. Forest Service trail while carrying a 1-year-old kid in a backpack-style child carrier. We've all seen ones where the youngster or infant rides on either the front or the back. This one was the backpack-style carrier. This path has a respectable actual elevation. At this point, it would have been between 92 and 99 degrees, which is incredibly hot. The group now hiked 1.9 miles farther on the Forest Service route, which paralleled the south branch of the Merced River, until arriving at the junction with the Savage Lundy Trail. The elevation of this trail juncture is 1,800 feet, and according to the authorities, the temperature at this time would have been between 99 and 103 degrees. The family would have confronted a sharp ascent as they started trekking the Savage Lundy route. They had been falling, and now they are rising again. Also, it is situated on a hill with little to no shade that faces south-southeast. Temperatures in that region are now at 109 degrees due to the 2018 Ferguson fire. Even if you aren't hiking, it is simply brutally, dangerously hot. Thereafter, without any additional shade, temperatures between 4:50 and 8:50 p.m. dropped somewhat from a range of roughly 105. At this time, they had hiked 2 kilometers in the sweltering heat on the Savage Lundy route with their family. By the time they turned around and began to walk back to their car, they have to go downwards, along another route, and then back upwards for a distance of several thousand feet. The family nanny showed up at their house on Monday morning, August 16th, and immediately started calling around to try and find them since they weren't there. The family was reported missing on Monday at 11 p.m., and the sheriff's office launched an inquiry. The family's car is discovered near the trailhead at 1:50 a.m. on Tuesday, August 17th, and a search and rescue effort gets underway. As search and rescue teams arrive on the site at 4 a.m. on Tuesday, August 17th, they find both animal and human footprints on the High Cove route. Yeah, it is a window of slightly more than 2 hours between the time they would have phoned for search and rescue and the time it arrived. In a fairly remote location in northwest Montana, I often participated in search and rescue operations. This is not like calling an ambulance and having to wait for them to arrive at the ambulance station if they are volunteer service, depending on where you are. Yet in search and rescue, even paid personnel are often volunteers. In the station, they are not. According to the technology they're using, they must then get in touch with all the search and rescue crews after the call is placed. They must then drive to the station, pick up their equipment, load up, and depart. In that case, the 2-hour window is not particularly unusual. It is still Tuesday at 8:40 a.m., therefore it has been roughly 4.5 hours since search and rescue personnel arrive. The hunt for the path is expanded upon by other teams, and California Highway Patrol is summoned for the assistance of a helicopter. And around 1.6 miles from their car, rescue personnel come upon the family walking along the route. At this moment, the dog, the 3 humans, and all of them are dead. They returned, a few miles later, and were just over 1.5 miles from their car when they suddenly seemed to be at their limit. The family had just 1 water container in their hands when the search and rescue teams finally found them, and it was empty. The water bladder could only contain 85 ounces or around 2/3 of a gallon. Round numbers here. If there was another surface water source accessible than the Merced, they probably weren't using it since they weren't carrying water filter equipment. The Merced had signs warning people not to drink the water because it contained poisonous algae. So this is a tragic tale. Unfortunately, a whole family perished because of an utterly avoidable and preventable circumstance. Even with enough water, it is generally recognized that exercising outside in high heat may be lethal. This summer alone, I've written about several fatalities brought on by the heat that happened while people were hiking. This tale is uncommon in that a whole family, together with their pets, died simultaneously from dehydration and heat. The other incidents I've written about this summer include either a hiker who was trekking alone and was unable to return, one who grew hot and dehydrated and was unable to return, or one who was hiking in a small group but only one of them succumbed to dehydration and hypothermia. While they may have been warm and dehydrated, they were nevertheless able to go forward. Hence, the fact that a full family was evacuated at once was what made this event so exceptional. I don't believe this is a shocking result given the length of the trek, the height increases and falls, the sweltering heat, and the lack of shade. They had to travel hours into the woods to reach their cars since there was no phone coverage, no means to cool down or drink, and no place to call for assistance. There just wasn't any other choice. They seemed to have walked as far as they could before giving up. In light of this, carrying just 85 ounces or about 2/3 of a gallon of water ensured that they would at the very least get critically dehydrated. In addition to the water required for the dog, each of them must have had access to a minimum of a few liters of water. Because of this, I keep these 2 water bottles for hiking in the refrigerator so that I may use them often when I go hiking. They are all around the same size, which is either a liter or a quart. As a result, 32 ounces will be given to each individual at this site. At any one time, at least 2 of them are at my side. With a total capacity of 2/3 of a gallon, they would have around 1.5 water bottles available for each of the 2 persons if they shared the container. Both the puppy and the child are excluded from this deal. Not near sufficient amounts of water. It's not likely that they did. As I said earlier, the investigators seem to have concluded, based on the app that they located on his phone, that he was most likely uninformed of the actual path that they were traveling. It is possible that he exaggerated the distance since he relied on waypoints rather than following the path in its entirety. It's possible that he was unaware of the amount of climbing and descending that would be involved in the trek. About the temperature, I am uncertain as to whether they forgot to check it, just did not think that it would be so hot, or reasoned that there might be more shade. Nobody knows for sure what happened, but it is clear that 1.5 bottles of water for each adult are not enough, and that's before taking into account the newborn or the dog. Nevertheless, a journey of that length, with those elevation gains and losses at those temperatures, would most likely still lead to hypothermia and dangerous metabolic imbalances even if they were carrying enough water to stay hydrated. This is because the elevation changes would cause the body's core temperature to rise. When the temperature is this high, individuals may still perish away from heat-related diseases even if they are not actively exercising in direct sunlight. When you combine outdoor exercise in the heat with drinking enough water to avoid dehydration, something that is tough to carry and accomplish in those types of situations, you will still finish up hot and prone to hyperthermia, which may be deadly on its own. Dehydration is another concern, and if you've been watching these videos, you've undoubtedly heard me remark that it can be too late by the time you realize you're in danger for you to do something about it in time. Since you are already overheated and dehydrated, it may be exceedingly challenging for you to pull yourself back from the brink of death if you do not get real and effective medical care at a hospital. You are already hot and need to drink some water. Even if you begin drinking water, it may be very difficult, if not impossible, to bring it under control promptly that would avoid death or at the very least significant medical complications. When you drink that much water, several gallons a day while exercising and let it evaporate through sweat, you begin to develop a variety of metabolic disorders. Hence, you build up a variety of things that are out of balance, which may impair both your mental state and your capacity to engage in exercise. You want to prevent ever being in that circumstance, but it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to achieve so in this kind of climate, with these kinds of temperatures, those kinds of exercises, and the sun. I'm not trying to pick on anyone here, and I'm not trying to victim shame. That's a term that's sometimes used these days. But there are lessons we can take away from this family's fatal miscalculation and their ability to handle the heat, the exercise, and the sun with so little water. Instead, my heart goes out to their family and friends. The reason I'm bringing this up is that it might have been avoided, and if I may continue, there have been a lot of instances like this just this year. The whole family is what makes this one different. It doesn't seem like fun to me, so I don't know why someone would want to go trekking in that sort of heat. It's incredibly risky. I do like hiking, but not in conditions that are so dangerously hot. As a result, I feel for the family's friends and family. We will never fully understand the family's motivations for embarking on this difficult trip, or if they were aware of their predicament at any point. Again, sometimes when you're suffering from dehydration and hyperthermia, you may not be able to think properly, which makes things worse because you may not even be aware of how much danger you're in. Whatever, their family members abandoned them, leaving them to deal with this loss for the rest of their lives. Therefore, please exercise care when thinking of going on a trek in really hot weather, taking a cycling excursion, or doing anything else that would involve effort. It's crucial to bring more food and drink than you think you'll need, since things take longer than you expect. Whatever results, There is more elevation gain or loss, and the heat is more than you anticipated. Things happen, and you get hurt when you're out there. To be prepared in case anything goes wrong, you should pack additional food and drink in addition to what you believe you will need. You should also take precautions to prevent overheating. The main conclusion is that it is almost difficult to hike safely in the intense heat and high temperatures. Thank you for watching this video about the tragic hike that claimed the lives of a young California family. It's important to remember that outdoor activities can be dangerous, especially in extreme heat with insufficient water. As you prepare for your own outdoor adventures, please make sure to take the necessary precautions and plan ahead for any possible situations. Always carry enough water and food, and be aware of the weather conditions and any elevation gains or losses on your route. If you have any thoughts or comments on this topic, please feel free to share them in the comments section below. And if you know of any similar stories or have any suggestions for future videos, don't hesitate to put it in the comments section. Thank you for your support, and please don't forget to like and subscribe for more important discussions on outdoor safety. Stay safe out there.